How you doing? Cynthia Harrison here from Rhombus Healing Arts, and I just wanted to pop in to say g'day and see if anybody was around to have a chat, because I just finished talking with a lady about subliminal stress and the invisible shadow or forces that impact us, and just made a cup of tea and wanted to see if anyone was around, see if anyone had any questions about earthing, stress response, what they might be struggling with, if we could have a chat. I am here. I don't know for how long, but I am here. So I don't know how to share this. So I really can't share it with my other page, but hi. If no one turns up, then we can't have a chat, can we? So I suppose I'll just talk about what I've just finished chatting about, and for those of you that see the replay, you might want to ask a question or whatnot. I was just speaking on a summit about healing ourselves and the joy, how to access our joy through healing ourselves. So that'll be out in July, so I'll give you a link for that. But in the meantime, what we touched on was how the subliminal stress, or what is subliminal stress, is basically the technological geopollution in our field, and how we swim through that, and how that impacts our systems energetically and physiologically. And it's basically on a subliminal level. We don't often have an idea of how it is impacting our systems. And because it's this ongoing underlying stress, hey Tim, yay, because it's this underlying stress response, we often don't know that it's a problem, or we have a problem, until we start to get symptoms. So a lot of my work is about sharing with people different tools and techniques, and tracking their energies, or scanning or reading their energies to give them tips on where their blocks or congestion or lack of flow or too much flow or whatever's going on with their system, so that they can have little tools that I call first aid, energy medicine first aid, so that they can rectify that or get the flow back for wellness, basically. So that's what it's basically about, because I feel that many already know about, if you've had a shock or a trauma, you're going to know about it, right? In your field, in your world. But these subliminal stressors impact our systems the same way as a trauma would, yet we're unaware of it until the symptoms start to become something that impacts our everyday life, right? So anyway, that's what I was talking about on a new summit that's coming up by Dr. January, her name is. Wonderful name. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun. So, but, since I'm here and I haven't been here for a while, I thought I'd pop in and see who's around to say hello or answer some of your questions. I can't share it to my page. So I don't know, Tanya, if you can share to my personal page or not, or if somebody can do that for me, because, oh yeah, by the way, my phone has gone to heaven, so I don't have a phone and I'm not replacing it. So if it doesn't come back to life, which it hasn't for 2 days, and I haven't been able to restore it or get the backup onto it, there's something, yeah, it just doesn't want to play anymore. So I've laid it to rest, and I'm actually enjoying not having a phone. So the only way to contact me literally is through Facebook or Messenger. So yeah, it feels like I'm going into this other phase, and the technology is assisting me to do that. And we'll just see how that goes. So again, you know, am I addicted to it? Seems not. I thought I might be, but it doesn't seem that I am, because other than not having an alarm this morning, although I found an old little clock that I woke up before it went off anyway, so it didn't matter. But yeah, other than that, at the moment, and worrying about all my photos and videos from the last few trips. But because I'm so much on social media and sharing, most of it's on Facebook or Instagram anyway, so I haven't actually lost it. So that's good. And all the images of my grandchildren and whatnot. So yeah, no stress there. I'm just living life like I'm in the 80s. Back in the 80s. So it's interesting that I can't share on here. I'm not sure why. But anyway, those that need to be here will see that I'm here. All right, so are there any questions? I suppose I can talk about a few more things and just see what's going on, and if there aren't any questions, then we'll move on and go and enjoy the rest of our days or evenings. All right, so what I talked about earlier this morning was around the adrenal response and the cortisol response of within our stress, and how that creates irregularities in our energy systems. And the reason that that's important, I feel, is that if we have irregularities in our energy systems, then we don't have the three, it's almost like the 3-point plug of our positive, negative, and neutral that our systems need to function at most optimal levels, right? And, you know, the more that I've sort of traveled and spoken to people, the more I realized that this information isn't that widely known. And so I guess I just have to talk about it more. Because, hey Andrea, because if we aren't aware of how our stress response impacts our energetic systems, then the symptoms or the discomfort or the disease or the constriction and contraction that comes from that is what we experience, and creates this ongoing loop. So, you know, the hippocampus, for instance, is an interesting point, which actually energetically is the alarm point for the hippocampus, is just on the ridge of the eyebrows. And you can sort of feel where there's a little, it's almost like there's a little chip out of the bone. But that's an alarm point for the hippocampus. And energetically, when we are plugged in to the earth, positive, negative, neutral, we ebb and flow. We can release the soot or the muck that comes from the burners. You know, we're burning this positive energy, which is hot, and if there's too much of that positive energy, then it's the stress response kicks in a way that we have then the adrenaline mixed in with that. And so that's a long story. I'm not going into a teaching, but it's just to touch on some of the things that have been coming up for me in conversations around, you know, energy. We talk about energy, but what is that, and how, you know, having an abundance of energy, well, great, but if it's a particular polarity or a particular charge, then it's not that beneficial to us. And I know that firsthand because, you know, I'm one of these people that was like, you know, had my axis like this, like, ah. So a lot of positive charge, very little grounding, which made me uneven. So yes, I could connect with information that maybe others couldn't, but I couldn't live very well here either. You know, the toggling of the worlds was very difficult. And I feel like I've really, I won't say I've mastered it, I'm still mastering it, but I feel like I'm really here, solid on the ground, living in this, you know, relative reality, yet still being able to access information. You don't lose that. So by earthing and understanding the pathways, the conductive pathways that our physical body has for our energetics, then it's like having not just an earthing rod, but you've got these channels where the rubbish and the waste from the burners, so we've got triple warmer, triple heater, the three burners of the body energetically, where does that waste go? It needs to have an outlet. And I've never spoken about this before. This is, it's a little bit more advanced, so I sort of try and keep things at a level that majority of people can follow. But I think I've spoken about earthing so much over the last year or so that it's like, you know, for me, it's priority to get this information out there, and I'm passionate about it, so I share. So yeah, we know that irregularities happen in our energy systems due to stress response. So we can work on our stress responses, but that could take some time. But we can also work on our earthing, our points, our acupressure and acupuncture points. Every one of them has polarity, positive and negative charge. Being very mindful of our neutrality, you know, the pole that we are, and, you know, our positive and negative charge at each end, and how that connects with the earth. So I talk about that all the time, you know, the feet being able to, I've got my little magnets here, in fact, the bottom of the feet having to be the opposite charge of the earth so that it links and we're grounded, we're earthed. So when I talk about earthing, that's what I'm talking about, charge. I'm not talking about relax and feel your bum on the chair and your feet on the ground and, you know, that type of grounding, which we use in psychology a lot. That's great. But if you aren't earthed, really none of this is going to be much good, because the system is so stressed and reactive that you're just doing Band-Aid moments. So Jan's saying there are so many people becoming ungrounded now, lots of irregular energies and polarity out of whack. It is to do with all this solar activity, ? Or is it just general wackiness of the earth at the moment? Hey Jan, for a start, hi. Really pleased that you're here, because you know, you being an energy practitioner as well, it's really important that we all have a general understanding of this, but particularly if we're practitioners or of any description. I was talking to a GP yesterday, actually he's an anesthesiologist, and we were talking about basically the same thing. That's why I thought I'd come on and have a chat, because he's wanting to assist his patients after they've had brain surgery and whatnot, brain injury, brain surgery, and he's looking at energy. So we've been talking about what types of things that he and his staff could do to assist in their recovery. So really wonderful. I get so excited. I'm like, I will tell you anything you want to know because, you know, to get this information in the space of healing and wellness is even more so. But my aim is to get this information into every home, at least, to be able to empower ourselves to keep that flow. So Jan's asking, what's going on, basically? Ultimately, in relation to the irregular energies, I don't feel that it's changed, that it is a stress response that creates irregular energies. However, what's stressing, or what the stressors are in our world today, are more so than ever before. And the last 2 years, I can say for a fact, the last 2 years I've seen in my practice, and I would say that because before then I wasn't seeing, yet I wasn't looking for it so much. But when you track energy, and as Jan knows, there's particular ways that we track energy, and that will show us what the system's needing. Now, 2 years ago, that wasn't showing up so much. From then on, every single client that I see, and I've literally just written up 100 case studies. Well, actually, tell a lie, I have 10 more to do, right? So 90 case studies, every single one of them have irregular energies somewhere in their system. That is, as far as I'm concerned, it's just been unheard of in the past, like Jan's saying, that now a lot of people are becoming ungrounded and irregular energies. So there's that. The other side is that the polarity of the earth is shifting, the pole shift of the earth. So when we have, for instance, we've got our two magnets again, when two opposites come together, they attract. Okay, so when the magnet shifts, or the charge shifts, so think of it as charge, it hovers. See how the magnets, well, you can't probably see, but you know that to be a general law of, you know, magnetics, yeah? So if you see that the bottoms of our feet are south and the earth is north, then we come together and we work in symbiosis. It's like this beautiful flow of energy, and the earth energy, then it's like, I'm so passionate about this, sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but the earth becomes our central nervous system. When we're connected in, the earth becomes our central nervous system. Like, think about that, feel into that. Like, whoa, okay? So when, you know, for instance, some of you know I had a car accident. Well, two other cars hit me, and I had an injury, and I used magnets, but I also laid on the earth and I plugged into the earth. So I won't go into that too much because I've talked about it in the past, but I used the earth's field as my connection to the earth to assist me to heal, using her nervous system as mine, because that's how it should be. But because the earth at the moment is trying to find her flow, where her poles are sitting, like they're shifting. It's science. I'm not making it up, right? So what we need to be doing now is not worry so much about having a stuck or stagnant polarity, so to speak, what I suggest is to learn how to dance with the earth's energies. What is she today? Well, you don't actually need to know what it is. Just be aware that if you're feeling a little out, rather than trying to work out like what's the sun doing, are there solar flares, what's the moon doing, what's the energies doing, what's the 5G doing, you know, what are all the telecommunication towers doing, you know, what is my partner doing, what are my children doing, what's my job doing, what's my boss up to, all of this stuff, right? Bring it into your central or your center, which is your pole. So we have different names for that in different modalities, the Tai Chi pole, the central channel, the, you know, all sorts of things. I don't want to label things because we're all from different ways of knowing, but ultimately our central pole is a neutral charge, or it's neutral. Whether you can call it a charge or not, I'm not sure, but it's a neutrality, right? So it's the same as having that pole through the earth, okay? Pole through the body, as above, so below, you know, micro, macro, all of that. We can go to our cells. Each cell, right down to the cellular level, we have these polarities, these positive and negative charges to the cells, and how the blood and nutrients interact is to do with charge as well. You know, whether glucose or nutrients go into a cell or not could be, yeah, I'm not a medical doctor, so, but we could call it different things, name them different things, diabetes, whatnot. So an irregular energy creates inflammation. Inflammation creates symptom. Let's just say it that way. So let me go back to Jan's question. It's regular energies of polarity out of whack. Is it to do with the solar activity? Yes, it's to do with the solar activity, but also everything else, because everything that happens in our field impacts our charge in some way. So we are shifting in our, you know, every moment, bam, 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 bam. It's not stagnant. We're not stagnant beings. We're coming in and out of creation basically at every micro moment. So are we going to get hung up on that? No. What are we going to do? We're going to do our energy medicine every day. So no matter what the earth is doing and what the solar flares are doing and what the magnetosphere is doing and whatever the planets are doing, whatever the moon phase is doing, we're going to swim or dance with it, whatever metaphor that you like. You know, I tend to say I dance with the earth. How we dance with it. So Jan knows that, you know, spooning your, oh, I got a heart, thank you. Spooning your feet is a great way to get your polarities. I'm not going to say correct. I'm going to say to work your polarities. So if you spoon your feet regularly and, you know, I did mine. So I've got a big one and a little one. The little one I carry in my handbag, right? So I've got my little medicine cabinet here, which is, and my magnets. That's what I carry with me. It's my medical kit. And even when I was in hospital, because they wanted to check, because I hurt my back in a car accident, the paramedics were watching me. I had selenite in my foot, so Jan will know this, and maybe some others. I'm not sure who else is watching. But selenite, I'll actually show you because this is the kit that I had. So there's a tiny little piece of selenite, which is great for pain, but it also helps irregular energies. So I slipped that into my shoe just underneath the heel. And underneath the heel of the foot is what we call a shock point. So I'd just been hit by 2 cars pretty hard, hurt my back and was in shock. could feel when I got out of the car, my legs could barely hold me, you know. So straight away I'm like, okay, I need to do what I need to do to make sure car's safe, it's not going to explode, the others are safe, all of that sort of stuff. But then I went into my little response of what does my body need. So pushing on those points at the heel, or what we call shock points. But when I was in the ambulance, I just had this in my shoe, and I was just every now and then pressing on it, and then I would swap it to the other one. And the paramedics were asking me what I was doing. I told them, and they thought it was amazing. And I also had my magnet south side on my back. I just tucked it into I had like leggings in, I just tucked it into the elastic. And the north side of the magnet assists in pulling out. So helped with inflammation and pain. And I just kept doing that. And when I was in the hospital, they said that, you know, after so many hours, all these tests and everything, they said I could go home, and that, you know, to take all these medications because I'll be in a lot of pain in the next 2 days. And I said, no, I'll be fine. And I went home, and I was fine. I didn't have any pain because I used this, and it's based on working pain spots, but also that shock point. So I don't know if you know this, Jan, I'm going to go into, because it's come up, into that, what's it called? Calcaceous. I was talking about it earlier. Let me see if I've got it. I've got it in my notes from my thing. Yeah, calcaneus. Told you I'm not a doctor. The calcaneus bone, right, is on the heel, and it's like a sponge, a shock absorber, and hence, you know, putting pressure on that shock point. So there's whole protocols to that, but, you know, just for self-help type things, you can put pressure on that. I've used it many times, like, because I go into neurological shock. So if I really hurt myself, I'll pass out. And so now I know what to do so that I don't pass out, so that I'm safe, especially if I'm on my own. So I've cut my hand open late last year, and, you know, wrapped it up, went upstairs, and my daughter was home. And by the time I got upstairs, I couldn't see. It was completely black because I was about to pass out. So I said to her, put 2 spoons, literally put 2 spoons on the floor, put my heels on them so that I could push them. And if I pass out, that she could push those shock points, because those shock points are so that you don't go into shock. And I didn't. I stayed conscious, and then I did some other energy, like I hooked up. So putting your middle finger in your belly button and your other middle finger in the mid-brow point, and you push in and pull up, and that hooks up your system. Also great for if you're going to go, or if you do have seizures, you can hook somebody up. It can assist their seizure to either dissipate or not be as full on. And we've had feedback from those. I don't have seizures, but for people that do and they've used it, they've fed back that it has minimized their seizures and that sort of stuff. So yeah. What else do you want to know? Did I answer your question, Jan? So yes, general wackiness in the earth and everything around us. And it's a time that we've never been in before. It's a time that apparently the earth has shifted its poles once before, but it was before we were here. So, or at least before the amount of technology and what I call the shadow that all of those technologies create. So at this point in time, we've never seen what we're seeing today. So we don't know what's going to happen with the complete, with the shifting of the poles, with that amount of geopollution, I suppose you would say, how it's impacting our bodies is what you're saying we're seeing. You know, we're all seeing it. I talk to many other practitioners and energy workers, and those that know to look for this are seeing the same thing. We've never had so much irregular energy before. And the beauty of it is that it's pretty simple to correct. How to hold it is probably another thing, as you might have found, Jan. Let me know. Because we can correct anything fairly well, fairly quickly, or that's what I've seen in my practice anyway. The thing is how long it holds. Because if you're going back into the same environment with the same patterns of behavior, then eventually the same or similar things will start to show in your field again. So what we try to do is give you these really simple tools and techniques to shift the behavior so that you're going back into your world and you're not having to change your world so much, but what you're doing is changing or adding or supporting your nervous system, both physically and energetically, to be able to sort of bounce back, really. So the alarm goes off that there's danger in your field, and you have tools to say, hey mate, it's okay. This isn't a danger in your field. You're just pulling up a memory from the past that's a trigger that is, you know, your system is saying, yeah, there's a fire, but there actually isn't a fire. It's just a red light that looks like a fire. So it's okay. Calm down, right? And you can calm down your system. Over time, to just go on with that metaphor, every time you see a red light, your system's not going to go into fight, flight, freeze, or even the immobilization response. You know, you're developing new behaviors, so your system knows, it's a red light, it's not a fire, or whatever that stress might be, the lighting or the, you know, if you've had an illness in the past and there's something that comes up. For me, it was around my throat. For many years, when I get a sore throat, my body would think it was dying, because that's how I went into a coma when I was a kid. And so even though my mind knew that I was okay, it's just a sore throat, my whole system would go, you're about to die, you know, what are we going to do? So I had to work really hard to shift that. Every time I got a sore throat or a swollen throat or something like that, you know, working my systems to go, okay, what is that? Now when I get a sore throat, which isn't that often, I literally just stretch it and release the energy. Like, it's no big deal anymore. But back then I didn't understand it, and there was a stress response or a trigger connected to it. So you might have something like that if you've had an illness or an injury, and then your system's gone into protective mode. And if you have something that slightly reminds the system of that injury or illness, it will go into the same responsive mobilization. And that can create the irregularities in the system too. So what it's doing, what an irregularity is, basically is that, for instance, we'll use a meridian, but an irregularity can be in a muscle, in anything, right? I've seen a lot in muscles lately as well. So the muscle goes irregular, meaning that the flow through the muscle is impeded. But a flow through the meridian, when it's irregular, we can call it frozen. It'd be a frozen charge, a reverse charged, or a submerged. If it's submerged, it means it's been out for, you know, probably chronic. and it's gone so far under that a lot of the modalities and ways of healing won't be able to touch it and bring it back. So there's particular work that we would need to do to correct a submerged energy. A frozen one is basically there's no flow. It's like north-north or south-south. There's no flow. And reversed would be, rather than north-south, it'd be south-north. So it's just a reversed polarity. But all of them create a change in our systems, which a change in our systems can create a stress response. And then the loop of that is that the stress response is then stopping anything coming in or out, almost like batten down the hatches, right? Pull up the drawbridge to the moat, because your system's not allowing anything to come in or anything to go out. So then we're in this stagnant stage of whatever we've got going on. So yeah. So any other questions or comments about that? Are you still there, Jan? Just wondering about the that calcaneus bone, whether that's something that has come up for you or not. I'll tell you a little bit about that, in fact, while I'm on a roll, finishing my cup of tea, and then I'll go. I suppose it's got to do with blood, right? So spleen energy is like the biggest magnet of our body. And positive, negative, right? And the reason why is because it governs blood, and there's iron in blood. So when we're looking at health and wellness, we're not, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not, or it might have been in the interview, but when spleen is out, the energetics of spleen, it impacts our metabolism as well. So not only what we're metabolizing through digestion or what we ingest, but how we metabolize our environment and what's in our environment, right? So hence all of these wacky energies, as Jan said. How do we metabolize those? How do we filter through and understand and allow our body to move and flow with that, you know, whacked out energies, right? So spleen is a big indicator of that now. So it governs the blood, but it also, with triple warmer, the meridian triple warmer or triple heater, those two meridians together, or energies together, they, let's just say, they do that. They hold the immune system. So think about it this simply, that when there's stress in your field of whatever, it doesn't matter what type of stress, if your system is stressed by something, triple warmer goes into, there's a fire because triple warmer energetics govern the endocrine system. So fight, flight, freeze response sends out a cascade of adrenaline. Spleen is the opposite polarity to triple warmer, is pulled from, because triple warmer needs as much energy to keep us safe, to immobilize all of that stress response. So energetically, that's what's happening. There's a lot of other stuff too, but that's the key. So spleen then is deficient. And if spleen is deficient, we're not metabolizing well, and our immune system is impacted. So you can see how all of that impacts, or I'm just going to plug my computer in, impacts our wellness I hope you can anyway. It's like people need to know. So those of you that have done classes with me will know, you know, strengthening spleen. There's lots of different ways you can strengthen spleen. Actually, I don't think I'll go into it today, but yeah, there's lots of really simple ways of strengthening your spleen meridian. I hold points because I like holding points. I do it in bed. I literally will strengthen my spleen meridian, if not once a day, often twice a day. And especially if I'm traveling, which I do travel a lot, I am supporting my spleen at least twice a day, at least. Now, I've just been in 10 days, I went to Germany, South France, and the UK, all over the UK, right? A lot of travel. And what I was doing when I got there was not holidaying. I was creating new technologies and sharing research and whatnot. So, you know, travel is stressful, but also talking about, you know, your research and what you've been doing in the world that is probably a little bit controversial to some people, that can be stressful too, because you're talking to experts in their field. But I had no symptoms, no jet lag, no aches and pains, nothing. Right? I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, wow, like I've just done all of that. The amount of flights in between, and I was staying at all these different places, and some of them are really dodgy, right? Yeah, and total health. Why? Because of these particular energies. I'm sure of it. As I was working my triple warmer, so triple warmer vagus, I'll give you this one. I say it all the time, but triple warmer vagus is going from the ends of your, or the beginnings of your eyebrows, which is a bladder point, which governs the nervous system. So hello, that's why. Then we're coming across, right? Now this, remember I said, was the hippocampus alarm point. So we're activating that, giving it a bit of love, coming to the ends of our eyebrows, which is another point for gallbladder meridian, going to the temples, which is the end of triple warmer, and going, having a bit of a relax. And then we're coming around the ears, which is triple warmer, to the bottom of the ears. Now this is where we change. This is where we hook in the vagus nerve, and we're crossing at the throat and coming to the thymus. So the vagus nerve basically has, it runs through or touches pretty much every organ. And on a spiritual level, it's what I call the, it's like our spiritual antenna. But where I've got my hands now on the thymus is where, you know, if we can give it a thump too. You know, we can thump our thymus as well. But the thymus is where our T cells go to, what would you call it? Not expand, multiply, right? Now, that's to do with our immune system. So just doing this, it's called triple warmer vagus, coming across, crossing at the neck and coming to, you can come to the thymus or you can come to the heart, it's up to you, but I come to the thymus. Part of me feels good there. And that's the way that you can regulate your nervous system in a particular way. I won't go into it. It's a whole lesson in itself. But then if you spoon your feet, which assists your polarity, assists with that dance, right? Of what's the earth doing? Not sure. So let's just dance with her. On another level, the irregularities are a little bit more difficult to, I suppose, give you really quick tips for, because, you know, you've got to know which ones are out and whatnot. But when we're speaking about the feet, so let's just speak about the feet today. If you, at your kidney 1 point, so just say that's your foot. I've talked about this many times before, so those that have heard probably, you know, just bear with me. On the bottom of the foot, just under the ball, there's a point. Now, you don't need to know exactly where that is, but if you move your hand in such a fashion, like, you know, on that point, or just on the bottom of your foot, the sole of your foot, like 3 or 4 times, right? On both. The reason I'm telling you to do that is because your hand is like a magnet. So you've got south and north, like north-south of a magnet. So we can move energy through moving our hands and our bodies in particular patterns or sequence patterns, right? So I can test that for you when we do that on the live Facebook. Sometimes, if you know, I can just scan and tell you what's out, how it's out, and then give you the correction so that you could do it and you can continue to do it, you know, for that week or whatever, however long. You don't need to test that though, because doing that won't hurt you. If you don't need it, it won't hurt you. But if you do need it, it will change your life. So you could just change the polarity on the soles of your feet with your hands by going south, north, okay? Then get your spoon and rub the stainless steel spoon on the bottom of your feet, on both of them, okay? And I tell you, if you've never done it before and you do it and you really need it, you will feel it. It will be like, oh, you'll just feel it. And the other thing that I've noticed over thousands of clients is that those that really need it, often it's sticky. I'm not sure if you're still there, Jan, or anyone else who does this. If anybody has used the spoon on their feet for their polarity, just let me know. And whether you've found that sometimes it's sticky and sometimes it's really smooth. And what I've found is when it's sticky, it's sort of like the spoon is sort of hard to move around, is an indication that that polarity is out. And the more that you do it, it gets smoother and smoother. So I haven't researched that yet, but it's one of those things that when I'm doing particular tools and techniques and I start to notice these patterns of behavior, I go, I'm curious about that, what's going on, let me look further into that. So that's just one of those I haven't actually done research on yet, in relation to whether it being sticky or not, but it's something that I've noticed that people that really need it, it's like it's a bit more, better way of saying it is it's less fluid in the movement because there's something going on with, so a stainless steel spoon, a magnet will stick to it, right? So we're working on polarities. That's why we use a stainless steel spoon, not a silver spoon. A silver spoon won't work. It's something to do with the metal of the stainless steel. And if you're not sure, you can, you know, any metal that a magnet will stick to will work. So the other thing I told you was about the shock points on the heel of the foot. The spleen being the biggest magnet of the body because it governs blood. And when we're in shock, or we have a shock to the system in some way, that our polarities are shifted. And so I've been saying this a bit more lately, and it is a bit blunt, but I think I'm getting over the times where I've been, I mix my words. Basically, death is a loss of polarity, okay? So you have your positive, negative, and then you have your neutral charge inside. So the neutral charge, or the neutral, what we call energetically our radiant circuits. So radiant circuits don't have a charge. So that'll be a topic for another day. But radiant circuits are what goes with us, or what goes when we leave the polarity, which is the earth and this body. That's what our polarity is. So everything that has polarity is left behind, and what is neutral goes. So however you want to language that, you go for it. I'm just trying to make it as less, what's the word, as basic a language as possible, so that, you know, it's a blank slate for you to put your, whatever your belief systems or whatever onto it if you need to. But the neutrality of who we are is what we are, and goes on with us, or we are it, when we move on out of this physical body. Everything that has a charge, positive or negative, is this physical body part of the earth, and stays here or goes back into the earth. So I hope that makes sense. And it's not too challenging for some people to go, whoa, that's death, okay. Right? So every time we're charged, there's a slight shift in that polarity. And if that goes on and on and on, we have illness, which is closer to death, you know, you get what I'm saying? So a complete loss of polarity is death. Just is. Didn't make it up. All right, been doing a lot of talking. Let me see if there are any other questions. Oh, good gracious me, there are a lot of questions. Sorry about that. Lishi, wow, good to know. Thank you, glad you're okay. Tanya's saying, what can you do to alleviate chronic pain? I'll get back to that in a minute. I didn't realize there was all these questions. Keely, hey. Matt, hey. Gabrielle, oh my goodness, you're all here. Okay, let me just go through these, because my screen wasn't scrolling. There's something wrong with this screen. All right, so Matt, where are our soul lessons stored in our energy field, and how can we start to target the storage of these to assist us changing our behaviors to level up? Far out. That's a beautiful question. All right, let me get to that in a minute. Jane's saying, yes, I am. No, I hadn't known about that. Good info. Helen, welcome, Helen. Can you heal yourself? Hang on. Can you heal your, I think you meant self, from asthma? Okay. Yes and no at the same time. Okay. Some can. If you feel that you can, you will be able to. If you feel that you can't, you won't be able to. Okay. As you are, the world shall be. Now, it may take time to understand what your systems are doing so that you have the tools to correct that. Asthma, just off the top of my head, I'm going to go energetically how I see it, but there's slight differences in it. So generalization is asthma's lungs related to metal element. Metal element are lung and large intestine. Both of those are around holding on or letting go. So either not being able to let go of something, you know, whatever that could be. And, you know, you could go deeper into that to find out what that is. Or so holding on too tight to something, or not letting something go. But ultimately it's the same thing, isn't it? It's like, you know, grief, sorrow, loss, sadness. So look at what's coming up for you in regards to that, and where it came in your life, those sorts of things. So what I would say in a nutshell is I'd be working on metal element, so most likely lung, if not large intestine as well. But there would be other patterns of energetic behavior that would be creating that imbalance. So if you understood that, yes, I would say yes, you would be able to impact the symptoms of asthma. Whether you could cure it, you know, without knowing anything about you, I can't go into that, and probably legally I'm not allowed to say that either. Who knows? So there's lots of things that you could do for asthma and breath difficulties, breathing difficulties, to at least alleviate some of it. Yeah. So so Lee, she's saying, I'm going to try this tonight. Okay, good. Jan said, yes, sticky for a lot of clients, and me too. Glad you brought that up. Yeah. Okay. So Jan's saying she's noticed the stickiness as well. Yeah. Just notice it. I call it action research. So you do things often enough and you just see the same or similar patterns of behavior coming up, and I just get curious about it. If I see things twice, I go, what's that about? If I see it 3 times, I go, all right, I'm going to watch for that now. And it's just how I work, because I don't want to have to see it 50 times before I'm aware. I want to be right on something, right? So Linda's, hey, Linda, I'm happy to see you back. I'm happy to be back. I just haven't been, I'm not back at a particular time. I just thought, hey, I'm here. I just did a little interview for a summit that's coming up, just one on healing, self-healing and whatnot. So I was here and thought, hey, I'll just see if anyone's around. So here I am. And Cannon, hi, Cannon. Can you heal yourself from atrial fibrillation? Let's move away from healing into, because it's our mindset, right? So I'm going to say, don't worry about the name of it, because I can't, atrial fibrillation, right? But to me, I'm not a medical professional, right? I understand anatomy and physiology, and I understand it energetically as well. I look at the human being very differently. I look at the whole systems and how they move, and what I've already, so if you didn't hear the beginning, maybe catch the replay and just go back through it, because those charges, those polarities and the ebb and flow are what create the symptoms. So I don't work on the symptom. I will track the energy of what's going on with your energy right now, and then we get a bit of an idea of what your system's doing, anatomy, physiology, energetically, and then we look at the patterns of behavior, and then we work from there. There's no guesswork. My intuition does come into it, yes, but if I get a hit on my intuition, I then test it. So there's nothing magical about what I do. It's all very grounded and solid. So can you heal yourself? I believe that everybody can heal themselves, because everybody has had something to do with the manifestation of what they're experiencing too. You know, it's like the world isn't happening to you. It's this symbiosis. So yes. Now there was a question I wanted to go back to. So I know that was short and sweet. Okay, irregular heartbeat. You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna give you something for that, purely because it won't hurt you whether you need it or not, it won't hurt you. But there's a point called CV17, and it's between the breasts, right? On men and women. There's a point in there. And if you get any type of chest pain, now I need to say this just to cover my ass, is that if you have any type of chest pain, please go and get it checked out. However, if the medical profession is saying there's nothing wrong with you, right, then it's possibly energetics, and not to say that can't be serious too, but holding that point releases and assists in any type of chest pain or heart palpitations or irregular flow, those sorts of things, right? And if you really are getting a lot of pain, and again, you've been checked out, rubbing. So if you put your hand like that and rub between the breasts, that can really help too. But that, it's CV17. It's called the Sea of Qi in Chinese medicine, I believe. But so I don't know if you know my history, but way back in the day, I had post-traumatic stress and general anxiety disorder. So I had a lot of chest pain, a lot of pains in my heart, felt like someone was stabbing me. And I used small energy things like that, and it would go away. And I basically cured myself of all of that through energy medicine. So I didn't take any medications or whatnot. Not against them, but it wasn't something that I wanted to go down that path on. So sometimes, you know, you can have your medication and be doing your energy work. And I was saying this earlier to the doctor I was speaking with, that you know, when you're getting your systems more balanced, then the medication, you know, you can go and get your tests again. And often with a lot of my clients, their medications are lowered. Now, I never tell anybody to do that, but I'll say go to your GP and have your regular checkups. And what happens is that automatically happens over time. As your systems start to get more regular, then you're needing less. And also going back to spleen, when spleen meridian is being juiced and looked after and loved, right, then it's metabolizing the medications better, so you need less. So it's a win-win all round. So anyway, I'll just throw that in. But there was a question back here, Bruce. No, Matt Bruce. That's an interesting question. I'm going to ponder that for a moment. Let me just have a breath. Where are our soul lessons stored in our energy fields? Few answers for that one. And how can we start to target the storage of these to assist us changing our behaviours and levelling up? Where do I want to start with that? All right. So on every level, there's a different answer. So we're talking about levelling up. What level? And whatever level that you're at will be a different answer to that. And often they'll contradict the one. So I could give you 7 different answers. That'll all be correct. But depending on what level you're at, would be contradictory. So I'm going to preface with that. All right. So I'm accessing my memory vault of numerous modalities because there are different ways of knowing. And all right. So to start off with, but this is more advanced, and I'm not going to go into how to do it because I don't even do it. I just don't want to. I don't want to be doing that type of work. But the 8th chakra is a chakra that you can access your or people's aspects of themselves, so to speak. So I'm just going to leave it at that because it's just for a knowing, but you don't really want to play there. You don't want to play anywhere, but that's not a place that I want to go, because what I see is like almost burnt on my 3rd eye retina, and I can't not see it. So there are certain things that, you know, I just don't want to know about you, to be perfectly frank. You know, when I'm working with you, I place the intent of it being what is needed and informative, because I will get information on everything and it's not relevant to right now and what we're working on. So for one, if you are doing any sort of work like that, place the intention, because is it relevant to what that person is needing right now, or is it story that might be really interesting, but is it informing the work that needs to be done right now, so sort of thing. Does that make sense? It's like, that's something for me, and I suppose I'm bringing it up because there might be people watching that get a lot of information and they can be overwhelmed, because that was me. As soon as I start opening up to anybody, and you'll see I haven't read anybody, right? But as soon as I start to open up, I will get everything. It's like, so I need to be placing my intention that to keep it focused and on track, so that it's workable. Otherwise, you're getting absolutely everything. So I've gone off track a bit with that question, so let's bring it back. The other thing is life colors. Everybody has a life color, and it doesn't change. It's a part of the aura, but the aura changes constantly, and in color and whatnot. Life color doesn't change. You come in with your life color, and it has particular lessons, patterns. Yeah, it has particular lessons. Most of the time you'll have to. There's something else called sensory styles that also, you know, you come in with all of them. But when you're in stress, because that's sort of my thing at the moment, or most of my life really, because stress is what I see causing our discomfort and our illness and whatnot, and prevents us certain types of stress, because there's positive stress too, which is the norepinephrine stress response, which is good stress, right? Which helps you do your work and you're inspired and whatnot. But there's, you know, what we generally see as stress, that can prevent us from leveling up, which is what I think Matt's trying to get at, is that what I've seen in spiritual development, in mine and my students, is that they get to a certain point, and it's usually quite high, like, you know, heart, generally heart, like high solar plexus or heart, and they start to have their stuff come up that will just hit them like nothing else. And how I see this is, it's not good or bad. I see that when your lessons are coming back around, they're coming back around at the next level to show you from a perspective that you weren't able to see from the other levels. So I hear it all the time, like near daily. I've worked with this. Why am I still experiencing it in this way or that way? And it's basically this, right? That you deal with it on this level. So just say we use the chakras as an example. You know, you deal with something that's happened at the root chakra or that frequency, right? Then you move up to the next frequency. It's like going up the, you know, you're working your way up to the penthouse. So you've got this, you know, you're renting an apartment on the lower floor. And then when you get a little bit more money, energy, right, you can move to the second floor. And the vantage point from which you can observe your world is a little bit higher. So you can see more. So then you deal with that, and then you're able to do more, be more, you are more. So your currency goes up a little bit more. You're at third floor. So your vantage point, your perspective, right? And we keep going. So the beauty of that is, yes, it comes back in a different way. Your world, or what you're here to really master, is coming in different ways for you to get every possible angle in every shadow that you can and deal with it. So by the time you get to your higher centers, right, it's an echo in your field, which is what I call them. So I've said that I've had post-traumatic stress in the past. Now my field holds that. I was talking about this recently because it was like an aha moment. I'm like, okay, I don't have any symptoms, physical symptoms, none. Haven't for over 10 years, right? However, it's in my field, it's in my energy systems as an echo. it's, I suppose you could see it as, you know, if you write something in pencil and then you erase it, there's sort of like a little echo of it still, but it's not enough to impact anymore. It's a story that then can be used almost like a teaching point, like your wisdom. So a lot of the stories that I use in my teaching are now my wisdom. They've got no charge on them because they've been worked at all the levels from, you know. So that hasn't exactly answered your question. So let me go to the next bit. So the sensory styles are, so my main ones, I'm kinesthetic, which means I feel first, then I'm tonal, so I'll hear. So you usually have a primary and a secondary. So your primary is like, you know, your core way, and your secondary is usually how you are when you're in your work. But you're all of them. It's just when you are stressed, you revert or tunnel to your main one, and mine's kinesthetic. So it's nothing for me to feel what other people are feeling. So that's why, you know, I make a good energy worker, because you come to see me and I can straight away, once we establish that, you know, that's the work you want to do, my body will feel what's going on in your energy systems. And then it's, you know, I just follow the protocols, but my intuition and my kinesthetic style is informing me first, and then the other ones come in. So everybody's got that. Where are they stored? Okay. I'm going to say there's not one main energy system, because although they're all linked. So I'm going to say the chakra store. So we've got the 7 physical chakras, although the 7th one's slightly out. Each one of those, we've got a front and a back. Each one of those have 7 levels or layers. When I do a chakra or any chakra work, what I'm doing is I'm testing each layer. So I'm not just going, oh, it's the heart chakra or the solar plexus. I'm going, okay, it's the solar plexus. Where is that, whatever we're working on, within that solar plexus? And we're asking each layer where it is. And each layer has other information. So depending on what layer it is, gives me extra information for that person to be able to work through. Now, the back chakras are our beliefs and conditioning patterns. And those energies are like what, okay, showing my age, but it's like the cassette tape or the recording that's placed into the body, and then the front chakras are what project that into the world. So if we want to work on a past belief and conditioning pattern, we'd be looking at the back chakras. So let me just check in with this. So soul lessons. Soul lessons, okay, doesn't quite hit that. However, let me just check if he's said anything else. Rachel's just asking what the 7 layers on each chakra are. They're 1 to 7. Simple as that. I just test, like, you know, the current would be 1, and the most ancient would be 7. Yeah, and so something in between would be sort of midlife. So, but if you can use intention, you would be asking. So the same with the aura. So again, back to Matt's question about the aura, about the soul lessons. So I'm looking at your question as lessons, right? Because we are soul. So what are the soul lessons? What are our lessons, right, in this lifetime? So that's how I'm interpreting that question. And I'm giving you different angles in. Just lost my train of thought. So 7 layers. Oh, the aura. So the aura holds the echoes, like I said. So we can test again, the 7 layers of the aura. And there's particular ways of doing that. So when I say I'm tracking, like, you know, we are doing, so one of my clients said to me the other day, before I went away, I've got a whiteboard here, and so I'm tracking and I'm writing on the whiteboard. And she said it was like watching me decipher a mathematical equation. And I went, when I thought about it and looked what was on the board, it was like, yes, because we are. We need to be curious. We need to be in a neutral mind. We need to be flowing with that energy to see where and what is constricted, make a note of it, and then follow the tracking to see what else is involved with that particular issue, which gives you a whole picture, which looks like a math equation, but is basically just my shorthand for the energy systems. And when I see all of that, and the reason that I write it on the board is then at the end, they can take a photo of it, or I can take a photo of it and send it to them. And then they can take whatever is relevant to their GP or their whatever other modality they might be working with. And, you know, it's a whole system. So I've got off track again. Aura. So it's 7 layers of the aura as well. And I'm not going to go into all of that. You can Google different layers of the aura and what they're connected to and whatnot. But, you know, there is our information there. So by accessing, so there's a bunch of them, and there's more ways to access, you know, soul lessons, but they're the more general ways of, you know, where something's stuck in the chakra is a real basic way. So most people will do just a basic chakra clear. I don't. In fact, usually when the chakra is out, it's connected to, well, everything is connected to stress response. So if you've heard what I've already talked about, I'm all about, you know, the nervous system physically and energetically. It all links to that. No matter what way you look at it, I can debate you till you're blue in the face or I'm blue in the face, because I've seen over the years now, 20 odd years of working with humans every single day, pretty much, how our systems are impacted. And so we can work a chakra, but, you know, where does that come from? And we can go into, yeah, this life, you know, past, present, future, that sort of stuff. To me, it is all here now. So past, present, future is all here now. It's just the veils or how we can see, feel, sense, know. And that is relative to what level we're at, what our perspective is. So the higher perspective we have, so if we're sitting on level 5 or 6 in the building, so we've moved up from the ground level basement apartment to level 5 or 6, then what we're able to perceive, feel, see, sense, know, smell, taste, right? All our senses are starting to open. Then we have more knowing, more clarity, more ability to be a neutral mind. And so the polarities of the earth or the world or our, you know, what's happening to us are less impactful. It's still all happening, but then it's not knocking us off our perch, so to speak. So we're better able to regulate and our nervous system and respond rather than react. So I'm just trying to think what else is a way that. So Rachel was, she was thinking whether it was mental, emotional, physical, etc. Yeah, I'm trying not to go into lessons on particular things, but you could, you probably could. I don't. I'm just a basic. I would talk about energy in its purest form possible, because then you can overlay whatever it is that your belief systems might. But see, all of that gets in the way for me. If you can just look at energy as there's 7, okay, the chakras, there's the 7 that, you see, I work with more than 7 to start with. So I work with 11 chakras, the 11 main chakras, but then we've got all the minor chakras as well. So, you know, I was talking about the 72,000 nadis of the body and how our environment is like strumming. Most of us are being strummed or played like a harp. So if we've got all these energetic strings within our body, whatever you want to call them, and we're moving through the world and we're allowing the environment to play us, that's not how I want to be. I want to be playing my own song. Okay? So I walk through the world playing my own song, not being played. So most people are being played. And it's a beautiful melody, believe me. However, wouldn't you prefer to play your own song? Determine what you are resonating in the world? So that's what I'm about, helping you resonate your song. I want to hear your song, right? And maybe the background orchestra can be the environment, beautiful harmonics, but I want to hear your song. Hey, Anna Paula, welcome. Okay, so I'm just going to take a breath, see if there's any questions, because I've been talking for a while now. I only popped in to say hello. But I was all excited because I haven't done a summit for a while. The Energy Medicine Summit was quite a few months ago. So yeah, just did a little one this morning, and it was so much fun. So I thought I'd pop in and say hello and share some of the points that I didn't get to really talk about because it was only a half-hour interview. But ultimately, I just want you to know that it's not about having too much energy or not enough energy. It's the type of energy, whether it's positive or negative, and what the balance of that is, and whether you can, if you've got an excess of positive energy, which was my life really, which is not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you understand your world is going to be like. You know, it was a more spiritual existence, and still is. So a lot of positive energy, but a lot of charge coming through my system, which meant that I had to take extra care of my nervous system. And I was talking to this same doctor who's he's having quite high awakenings, and even having so I'll mention this. It's a little bit out there. Not many would be experiencing this, but if you do, it'll give you a bit of background that there's something called it's like an electromagnetic stigmata, and you get it on your hands and sometimes your feet. But I've had it on my hands years ago. And this friend has that at the moment. He was asking about it. Basically, it's like, you know, when you're leveling up, when your energetics are shifting and frequencies raising, your physical body will struggle to maintain because it's changing. So it's not a bad thing. It's just that your container needs to be, or your vessel, your body, your physical body needs assistance to shift or evolve to be able to hold the particular charge that you're holding now. So, you know, that's fairly rare. I really only know of 2 other people that have had that stigmata. For me, it was like under the skin, like blood bruise on the chakras, minor chakras, and sometimes you can get a lot of, you know, hand stuff. Master Chrism, his name is, met him in the UK years ago, and he teaches on Kundalini basically that's all he does. His life is about teaching about Kundalini and Shakti energy and whatnot. And I noticed his hands when he was teaching one day, and afterwards I went up to him and had a chat to him, and he had the same thing. So it's, you know, we have all these weird and wonderful symptoms that our body goes through when there's a particular charge that our system's trying to navigate. But the earthing is what will assist you. So the earthing, as in finding, connecting. You can't find if you don't know what it is. So I'll tell you and then I'll finish up, I think, unless there's any other questions. So we've got positive, negative, and neutral bow. So the 3 plugs again, which is what I talked about at the beginning. So I'll end on this because it'll be a round circle now. That what do I want to say about that? That when we find our conductive pathways, and they're the pathways that earth us. I'm not talking about visualizing roots going into the ground, although you can do that. However, if your energies are irregular, it's not going to do a darn thing. Like, sorry to burst your bubble, and you can try it, right? Message me, I'll scan you. You can do your thing and then we'll rescan you, or go to somebody who knows about irregular energies and try it, because I've done it with so many people now. They'll go and have a, you know, we'll do all their energy tracking. They'll go and, you know, do something. I've worked with one of my friends is a Reiki master, similar thing. And it's not against any modality. What I'm trying to do is just say, if there are irregular energies, you need to find ways to sort them out, and, you know, assisting with the magnet, or the, you know, just shifting the polarity of the point will allow the flow. However, you can go and do a lot of other modalities, and if that point is still irregular, there's no flow. So it's like, why, you know, it's not going to hold. And I'm not sure if Jan's still there, but maybe she can back me up on that. But just a little story before I end is that last year when I did 2 expos or 2 conferences, and so the first one was, I think, 2 or 3 days, and the second one was, I think, 4 days. So over those days, I was doing 30-minute sessions or 30-minute scans, and I had the biofield viewer there to back up what I was saying if they, you know, thought I was a charlatan or whatever. And that's technology that shows the energy systems. So I could show them through the technology, but I could also show them through their biofeedback, and then correct it, and then show them the image again, and also do the biofeedback. And what I found in pretty much everybody that came through was that they all had irregular energies. Now, that's sort of here nor there in itself, but what I realized was I was down the back of the conference hall. So they were seeing and having all these other modalities along the way, and then getting to me, and their systems were multiply irregular. And I'm starting to think, well, what's going on? Because you've just had this beautiful gong bath. Why is your system still in distress? Or you've just had this access bars, or whatever. I don't want to mention that, because it's not about the modality. You've got to get that. It doesn't matter what modality it is. Even what I do, if I'm not correcting the irregularities first, the flow's not gonna hold, right? So I suppose that's what I'm trying to get across today. I'm passionate about it, that if you're a practitioner, then feel into whether it's something that might assist you, whether yourself or your clients. I'm happy to chat with you about it. I'm on Facebook Live every week pretty much chatting about it. So if you want a session, then book in. You could do a half-hour session or a full session, online or in person. Probably more online than in person. I don't do that many in person anymore, but if you're in the area and you want to see if I'm available for in person, then contact me. But yeah, for a consultation, to chat about what's going on for you, or I can scan your systems. It takes nothing for me to scan your systems. I could do it right now, you know. The thing is that then you've got your systems sort of equation, so to speak, your mathematical equation of what your system's doing. So then you've got to have somebody to either correct it, or whether you can correct it yourself or whatnot. So whether you have a session or not, but you don't necessarily need to. If you just want to chat to me about what's going on or what you're thinking, or ask me a question, book a half-hour session, you know, and just have a chat, and maybe go deeper into what's showing up for you, you know, whether you go to somebody else. When I do medical intuition work or medical intuitive work, I'll ask, is this for me to work with or to be referred to somebody else? So it's who's the best person for that particular issue. And it might be a multitude of people if it's something more serious. And, you know, you might have a specialist for diabetes or, you know, particular chronic disease and whatnot. And they're looking at you from that perspective, and we're getting your systems regular and strong so that ultimately the symptoms will dissipate. So we don't work on the symptoms as such, but when you work on the symptoms tend to dissipate and relieve. So, alrighty, I think I'm going to leave it there. Unless there's any other questions. Not sure if anybody's even there. So I'm going to have a drink. If there's any questions, pop them in now. Or so it's nice to see you, Anna and Rachel and Cannon. Let's see if I've missed any questions. So Cannon's saying, I don't use any pharma medicine. I have a normal heart, just I have this irregular heartbeats. Yeah, that's what I found, the CV17 for irregular heartbeats or any chest pain really. Okay, there's a new comment. Oh, Rachel's just saying thank you. My pleasure. All right, well, I feel like I've, because I wasn't able to be here on Monday, so I feel like I've made up now. So if you've missed the beginning and you're interested in what we might have talked about, I'll put the replay up, and you can watch it or share it. If you think it was helpful, feel free to share, or if you're watching the replay, feel free to comment or ask your questions. I may not get to them straight away, but on the next Facebook Live might be where I answer them, or well, yeah. So if you would like to have a chat or a session or a scan, just contact me through Rhombus Healing Arts. Website's rhombushealingarts.com. And what day is it today? I don't even know what day it is. But Mondays I'm usually here doing readings, scanning energy and whatnot. So if you want something looked at just quickly, then I might be able to get to you on the Monday. Mondays at 6 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time, so you can do the conversion for whatever country you're in or state. If you want something more in depth, then yeah, just contact me and we'll make a time. We can have a chat. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I think there aren't any other questions. Oh, Wendy's saying there are soul lessons in our energy field. Is that a question? There are soul lessons. Well, our soul lessons are held in us, and we are our energy field. So I would say yes. And like I said, if you missed before, I was saying there's numerous ways to look at what the lessons are. There's usually two within a life, is what I found, and others have sort of, I won't say confirmed, but seen that as well. But look, ultimately I say, and those of you that know me, I don't get hung up on too much, right? I don't get hung up on too much. I try to keep it as fluid in the language as possible. So getting caught up on what our lesson is, really, if you want to know how I look at what my lesson is, I look at my world. Because as I am, the world shall be. It's a King Arthur quote, but it's literally the science of our heart torus that moves like it ratchets around, right? The energy from inside ratchets around to outside, right? And then we've got our bigger tube torus field, which is doing the same thing from the tube inside us out into the field. So as you are, the world shall be. And this is a bit more, so you need practice for this, but everything you need practice for really is that I read my world like a book. What's happening is the story of my life, and it's telling me or showing me what to pay attention to, or what's being reflected out into the world, and then coming back in. And is that going to be fed again to be projected back out into the field? So we've got all of these different ways of informing and projecting. And it's not one way. Like I said, the back chakras hold information from our past, our beliefs and conditioning patterns, and it projects into, basically it plays the movie of that into our field. But there are other ways that happens as well. How we're encoded from very young in life. We don't have a memory as such, and in those early years we're encoded, we're imprinted that information, and that's what's held in our systems as well, and then plays out. So our behavior, how we behave in the world, how others behave in our world, what's around us in our field, is all information about us, ultimately. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at that. We can talk more about that on Monday if it comes up again. Thanks, Jan, for popping in. Appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you got something out of it. I hope you all got something out of it. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to go and have some lunch. Okay. Take care. Bye.